Welcome to Unforbidden Truth. I'm Andrew. On this week's episode, I'll be speaking with Michigan murderer Leon Echols. Leon is convicted of second-degree murder and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. On June 14, 1989, at the age of 18 years old, Leon shot and killed a man during a dispute involving a car near Detroit. Leon is currently serving a 75 to 150-year prison sentence. Here's my interview with Leon Echols.
Hello. This is a prepaid debit call from
Leon.
a prisoner at the Michigan Department of Corrections, Carson City West.
Where were you born?
In Detroit, Michigan. East side of Detroit. 1971. May 1st, to be exact.
What was your first positive memory as a child?
My first positive memory as a child, I think that when my mother and I, auntie, my cousins, I think we were living on Trumbulley, in Trumbulley. We was playing London the Bridges. This little game that the kids play, London Bridges falling down. My mother and my aunt was playing the game with us, doing that in musical chairs. Those are the memories that I think about first.
So that was your first positive memory. What was your first negative memory as a child?
My first negative as a child had to have been when my little brother was murdered by my mother's boyfriend. But it started before that. My mother would go to work at night, and my mother's boyfriend would just wake me up and start beating on me. Or I would wake up to cries of my little brother getting beat on. And mind you, my little brother was like maybe 2.5, maybe 2 years old at this time. And so I remember being terrified of my mother leaving to go to work because I knew Michael, was his name at the time, Michael would come for some reason just want to beat on us. Either myself or Andre or both of us. And sometimes he would have us, if I didn't get up to change his diaper, he would beat me for that. Or if my little brother went to bed, he'd beat me for that. Before he lost his life, that's what it was. That's the most negative time of my life as a child. I can remember that.
And what came about after your little brother was beat to death? What happened to your mom's boyfriend at the time?
Well, on the day of the incident, I can remember, I wish I could remember this lady's name, just thank her for even calling the police, but I think we was staying on Function Neck. That's on the east side of Detroit, in her apartment building. And she was hearing the little boy, which is my little brother, crying all the time. So when the incident was going on, he was beating on my little brother, and he was running to the little apartment, trying to get away. And so when I knew that something was wrong with it, because he was breathing real funny, they set him on the toilet. And my little brother was trying to balance himself, on the toilet, because, you're a little child trying to balance himself on the toilet. So imagine that, and he was heated, And I was watching it, looking at it, because the bathroom was right directly in front of the living room. And so when the police came, they just put my mother and him in handcuffs. I didn't have no understanding of why my mother was going, but I found out later on it was because of child neglect. She had received 90 days for child neglect. But they sent Michael to the county jail. I think he was found guilty of second-degree murder.
And what was his total sentence?
Well, I'm not for sure, but I think later on when I was a teenager, I had asked my auntie about it, and I think that he was sentenced to 10 years, but he didn't do that much time because he was out due to early release. I think they had 90-day cuts and all that stuff, and he was good behavior. He ended up getting out way before the time.
So he only did a couple years for beating your brother to death?
Yes. Because I remember when I went back to my mother's house, this is 77. So when the Department of Social Service allowed us to go back to my mother's care, it was in 1979 in December, because it was right before Christmas. And so, right before Christmas. And so my auntie, in the turn of 1980, she was talking about she ran in front of me. He was coming across the street, and then she was coming back telling my mother, guess who I ran into? And, we listening. She ran into Michael. And I was like, man, That's the guy that beat my little brother. I ain't think nothing else of it. So then 90, I got to be like 9 years old at this time. I ain't think nothing else of it. But I remember being, we was afraid of the boogeyman. And I was saying to myself, with this guy out, will my mama get back with him and all that? Because I found out my auntie had told me that my mother was defending him, in the courtroom, defending his actions. I couldn't wrap my mind around that. I used to always wanted to get the transcripts from that case so I could see exactly what went on.
Did that affect you growing up as a child?
No doubt about it, because anytime I received a whooping, I would get angry about it because I would always think I was gonna die from it. And then, when I get into little scraps as a little adolescent in school, I was always fighting. Never knew why I would get angry. It was because of what I had suffered. I can say that now as an adult, but as a child, you don't have no understanding of that. Anybody try to hurt me, I would defend myself. Be vicious about it too. Yeah, but I didn't. As a youngster, I didn't know it was due to the fact that I was being abused as a child. I didn't know that would shape my mind and my way of thinking. I didn't understand that.
Besides the abuse from your mother's boyfriend at the time, did you suffer any other childhood abuse or trauma growing up?
Well, no, thank God I haven't. It was just physical abuse. Physical abuse, mental abuse.
Was it just strictly from your mother's boyfriend, or was anybody in your life abusing you at the time?
No, it was just him. It was just, we could get a whooping, but that wasn't to me, I didn't take that as physical abuse. The physical abuse came from my mother's boyfriend because he would hit me with clothes, fists, tie me up to little pipes, knock my tooth out. I remember I wrote something about that day and that incident, and I titled it A Sibling's Burden. I asked God for strength, He gave me a burden to carry. I asked God for wisdom, He gave me a problem to solve. And I described the events that day. And there's an article that was written about what happened to my brother and I. And I wrote about Michael knocking my tooth out that day. And I realized that same acknowledgement that my tooth should have been knocked out is in the article. And I never knew that it was written in there that way because it's in the Michigan Chronicle. Yeah. So that stayed with me. Even to this day, when I think about it and go back, I'm like, man, how was I supposed to end up not in prison when I was suffering that type of experience as a child? And it happened. I think she got with him. This happened in 77, so I was suffering this since I was 5. Because I was 4, maybe 4. Because I was 6 when he passed away, so it was like about 2 years. 2 years. I still have problems with sleep. I got a roommate, and I find out through different roommates, they'll tell me that I be talking in my sleep, that I jump up paranoid, that I sleep paranoid, because he used to beat me out of my sleep. And I contribute that to being beaten while I was asleep. So now anybody can come in the room, and if I'm not comfortable with the person, I'm always jumping up. And I think that's due to trauma, You're the first person to ever mention this to.
Aside from the abuse, what was your home life like growing up?
Well, my mother was poor. We didn't have, the best experience I had as a child was being in my last foster home. The foster home that I was with their last name was the Browners. And they was a good family. And I would have loved to have stayed with them. But, because of my mother's skills in regards to what happened to me and my little brother and her child, she still wanted us in her care, but my mother was unfit. She didn't have the money or the means or the mentality to raise little children. So we was living on focus hope and, the free, they had that what they call focus hope, cheese, eggs, stuff like that. I ain't had the best of clothes, none of that. But I didn't care about those things. I just wanted to be with my mother and my siblings because it was another my sister. And by that time, she had another child, my little baby sister, Tiana.
You mentioned living in foster homes. I did notice that doing some research, you were living in group homes. Approximately how many did you live in growing up throughout your childhood.
Okay. I was there to accomplish foster homes up until 79, but the group homes, I got to count them on hand. Probably no more than 12, no less than 10. Then, yeah, as a teenager, I went to another foster home because I went to Star Commonwealth in '85, and I graduated from that program in '86. And instead of going home, I made a choice to go to a foster home because I knew if I go back to Detroit, I ain't have no chances of being successful. Because in spite of what I went through, I wanted to be successful. My ideas at the time, I wanted to be a social worker because those are the type of people that I was encountering most of my life. And so that was something that I wanted to do. So I chose to stay in Kalamazoo with the foster parents out there. That didn't work out because I couldn't adjust in high school. You know, I got kicked out of high school for being what they call incorrigible. Wasn't fighting, but I was just incorrigible. I had a problem with authority at the time. And so you get in Kalamazoo Central, you get kicked out of school maybe once or twice too many, they'll kick you out for the rest of the semester. And then I'll try to enroll into Job Corps. But by that time, I ended up going back to Star Commonwealth. Star Commonwealth put me in Maxie Training School. That's how I ended up in Maxie Training School because they didn't have room for me in Star Commonwealth. And I ended up going to Maxie. Once I got back to Maxie in that type of setting, I was rebellious. I didn't want to go through that again because I felt like I didn't do anything, to catch a case to go to that type of setting. So I've been fighting. That's when I started really fighting. And they kicked me out of Maxie and sent me to Green Oaks. And I went to Green Oaks. That was 1987. And when I went to Green Oaks, I finally made it out of that program, and they sent me to another group home, and I just went AWOL from there. That was in '89, like maybe January, February, March of '89, and I was on the run since then until I caught this case. So I was still a part of the juvenile system.
What was your behavior like growing up throughout your teenage years when all that was going on, being suspended or expelled from school? What was your behavior like at home as well as at school?
Well, in the foster home that I was in, I was doing well. I was adjusting well. Depending on the period of time we're talking about, when I was in Kalamazoo, I was just an average young kid trying to do my best in school, which I want my opinion of it, I really couldn't adjust because I had been so used to being in the institutional settings and going to school in those type of settings. When I was out there with my peers, I couldn't really adjust to that, to be honest with you. But I was trying to do my best. When I got sent back to the training school, that's when I really started, I think, being adjusted back to being in an institutional setting. I really didn't give myself a chance, nor did I have an understanding that I wouldn't give myself a chance. So I thought that I'd give myself a better chance by running away. Like I said, in '89, I went to a halfway house. When I went to that halfway house, by this time, I was like 17. I was so tired of being in an institutional setting. I ran away. And I realized that I was placing myself in great danger because I didn't have any skills. I didn't have any workable skills anyway. And then I was a functional illiterate, as I called myself at the time. So I went to selling drugs. I was hanging out with people that I met in the training school that were already had a criminal mindset, introducing drugs. And that's my first time ever being, introducing drugs. So I started hanging out with those types of guys. But when I was living in Kalamazoo, I didn't even experience that. So when I went to the training school, I think that could have been one of the worst decisions that ever happened to me. Because I made a choice to hang around with those type of people. Never really gave myself a chance, to be honest with you. And I'm becoming a follower instead of following my dreams. I'm becoming a social worker. And that's something I wanted to do. Those dreams quickly fade away when I went to the training school, if that makes sense. Because when you go into training school, Mr. Dodd, you're around all types of young men from different neighborhoods, different parts of the state. And me being sheltered basically most of my life, sheltered meaning I was in the institutional setting, but I wasn't around a criminal element, you know. And so when I get around the guys, they get to telling me stories, and we started having dreams of grandeur. You want to do the same thing they doing. I feel it's easy to fall into that trap. This is something I figure, okay, these guys making money selling crack. You figure this is the best way to take care of yourself. Not realizing you're making a poor choice, making poor decisions. And I just fell into that.
Did you engage in any criminal activity growing up prior to the case that landed you in prison?
The criminal activity that I engaged in was selling crack. I wasn't, I never stole cars. I don't have those type of skills. I never done it. I never robbed nobody. I just started selling drugs. Didn't really know too much about that. I was just learning as I went along. That was my criminal activity as far as I'm concerned. As far as breaking the law, carrying an unregistered firearm. Yeah, that's as far as my criminal activity that went. Selling drugs. I was so poor at it. I caught a dope case. I got caught with it. I got caught with it in 1989 in Highland Park.
All right, so let's skip forward a little bit. Let's talk about the crime you were in prison for. On June 14th, 1989, at the age of 18 years old, you shot and killed a man during an altercation over the purchase of a vehicle. Can you walk me through the events that transpired that day?
Yes, sir. My friends and I were at the mobile gas station on Troy Road, and we was looking to get a ride from one of our homeboys that live in Highland Park. This is when the championship game, we was going to go downtown to celebrate that. The guy Mr. Ivory was pulling out from the gas station to emerge into the traffic on Dre Road. He rolled his window down and he asked me, or any one of us, are y'all interested in buying a car? And I asked him, what did he say? Because I didn't hear him clearly. And he said he was going to buy a car. And I was like, no. I waved him on. I was like, no, we straight. But my friend on the phone had waved him down and said, what did you think? I said, man, he actually trying to sell his car. He told him, hold up. So when he got to talking to Bonnie, he hung the phone up and he went to him. He was like, yeah, I'm interested in buying a car. What you selling it for? And so I guess they were talking about the price. And he said, well, I got a payment on the car. He said, because he was having an argument with his girlfriend, or maybe his wife. I think it might have been his girlfriend. But they was arguing about they couldn't pay the notes on the car, so he was trying to get rid of it. And so my friend was like, you want to test drive the car to see if the car was straight. So they get in the car, they riding around. So he went to go buy some champagne and some crack. Actually, he bought some crack. We bought some champagne, and we just started talking and stuff. And he said he wanted to go get dropped off in Dearborn. So once we got to Dearborn, my friend and him got to discussing the price of the car. While we discussing the price of the car, Mr. Ivory was smoking the crack. And when anybody that knows somebody that smoked crack, they get to acting paranoid. So he started acting frantic. We was like, man, what's going on with this guy? And he trying to conduct the business. He said he wanted some more money. And he said he wanted some more crack. My friend said he ain't had no more crack. And he said he wasn't going to give no more money because they agreed upon his price. And so Mr. Ivory got agitated and he reached up under his seat. When he reached up under his seat, he came up with something that was shiny. I didn't know at the time what it was. Now it was a knife. But he came swinging it down. I pulled out my pistol. I had a pistol. I had to eject the bullet because I didn't have one in the chamber at the time. And I had to eject it. I'm in there struggling because he coming down on me, attacking me. My friend, when I shot the pistol, you notice in the article it tells you that my friend got shot. So my friend got shot. He was accidentally by me because I'm in there shooting because the guy was attacking me. My friend got out the car and he ran. I didn't know that Mr. Ivory had lost his life. And I get out the car and I ran. When I ran, I looked back. I see the passenger side door open. I think it was the driver's side door. And I see him hanging out. And I go tell him, I said, man, I think the guy might have died, bro. He said, well, how you know that? I said, because I see him hanging out the car. So I went to a diner that was over there in the area, and he reported that I needed a cab because I was trying to get out that area. And my friend told me he upset because he got shot in his forearm. And so we take him to the cab took us to, I think, the corner of Joy Road, because we in Dearborn. We went back to between Joy Road and Herman Gardens. So that's like right off the service drive, Southfield Freeway, because they got a fire station right across the street from there. And I took him over there, and he went to the hospital because they keep an ambulance there, and he went to the hospital. And I go on about my business. I go home, and I'm scared to death about what just happened. So I tell my girlfriend and her brother and his mother what happened. My hand is wide open at this time because I had to wrap a piece of cloth around. I think I might have had a t-shirt or something wrapped around my hand, and I was scared to go to the hospital because my hand was wide open. And they asked me what happened, and I told them what happened. By this time, Lonnie in the hospital, he shot me. I accidentally shot him, and I guess the detectives come up there, and they come to arrest me. So me being from the streets, I quickly denied it because I'm a teenager. I'm quickly trying to deny what just happened. But they told me every step of the way what happened, about us going to the gas station and going downtown, about to go downtown, and how we met the guy. So I admitted it. I told him everything that happened, and I made a statement admitting the fact that I'm the one who shot the guy, Mr. Ivory. And Lonnie got out the car and he ran. And so my co-defendant ended up getting the accessory after the fact. And I got charged with open murder. They bonded me over first-degree murder. And I've been telling the detectives all the time that I was attacked by Mr. Ivory because he was acting erratically. He was smoking crack. And I'm not trying to minimize what happened to Mr. Ivory because, it was a tragedy for both of us, but especially for him because he lost his life and his family lost a loved one. But I think the man, Mr. Ivory, lost his life because he got paranoid and he was smoking crack. If he wasn't smoking crack, he would have sold the car and we would have been on our way. But anybody that smoked crack, they act paranoid. And it set this in motion because we was out there trying to stay out the way, trying to go downtown and celebrate the physical championship and end up catching a homicide. I can't erase that. I think about it now. It's still like it was happened yesterday, I know that I've been down a long time from the incident, but I can never erase what took place with that man because I think the story needs to be told about him more so with me because this man was out trying to get rid of a car and ended up losing his life because he was addicted to drugs. It wasn't that he was trying to commit a crime or I was trying to commit a crime, but just our lives collaged in that way. And I could take a lie detector test to this. I didn't go out looking to do anything to anybody. It just unfolded the way it unfolded. And it was kind of weird. I just could never think about this. It just happened out the blue. And I always think about what can I have done to change that whole incident from happening in the first place. And I should have stayed my behind home. I wish I could do that. Because my girlfriend was telling me, why don't you stay home today? Because I just got out on a probation case. I had a possession of cocaine, and I had just got released on probation. And I'm ripping and running and hanging out with my friends. And here I am in Carson City, Michigan, with a 75 to 150 year sentence. Because I didn't listen to my girlfriend at the time, which was pregnant with our son. That's like in the eggshell right there, sir. They charged me with first-degree murder. And then I was found guilty of second-degree murder. And I had already been saying that I was defending myself. And doing the autopsy, they found they had cocaine and alcohol in his family, and the evidence has shown that I was attacked. They never brought out that type of evidence. You know, if I had an attorney that was a paid attorney, I would have more than likely had a self-defense case or a justifiable homicide. But it just seemed like I was railroaded because it made it seem like that I had nefarious intentions. You know, I would do something wrong. You know, that's not the truth. Like I said, everything I'm saying, I could take a lie detector test on that.
After being charged with first-degree murder and ultimately being convicted of second-degree murder and felony firearm, you receive a 75 to 150-year sentence for the murder and a 2-year sentence for the felony firearm. Do you remember what was going through your head at the time when you were handing down your sentence?
Well, yeah, I think I can recall that. I remember. Okay, now this is something I got to tell you. This is very, very important to this situation that I'm in right now. When I went through the sentencing process, I was taken back. The bailiff taking me back into the little bullpen. They had a break or something, and he asked me, "How do you see the case? How you think how it looked to you?" I think that was his exact words. And I said, well, you was in the courtroom. Now, mind you, I'm 18 years old. I said, you was in the courtroom. I think I'm going to beat it. And he was like, oh, you think you're going to beat it? And I said, yes, sir. I said, I was defending myself. Okay, now speed along to the sentencing. I get sentenced. Michael Talbot asked me, do I have anything to say? I said, I do. He asked me, what do I have to say? I said, I'm sorry to his family because his family lost a loved one. But I was defending myself. And he said, that all you had to say? I said, yes, sir. He said, so much for remorse. And he went off into his explanation of why he about to sentence me the way he's going to sentence me. So when he gave me 75 to 150 years, it never registered to me that this type of sentence that he had handed me was actually a death sentence, a spirit killer. And I didn't get it. What I mean by a spirit killer, I mean, he wanted to cut off my life because the judge, when they were doing the sentencing, the point scoring, when they do, they said that I had like 7 points. And so that placed me in the guideline range of 120 months to 300 months, which is 10 to 25. And so when he gave me 75 to 150, it still didn't hit me that this is actually 75 to 150 years. I couldn't even register. I was like living the days ever since. You know, that's how I felt. I was just in the days. But let me get to the last point. When I got on the elevator after he gave me this time, he got in the elevator with me. And he asked me, because I guess they waited till everybody had left. So the deputy was taking me back down to the van because I was in the recorder's court. And Michael Talbot got in the elevator with me. And I don't realize this is the judge until he made the statement to me because, you know, he got on this stingy, like a London fall trench coat with a hat on. And he had his briefcase. And he looked at me. He had some rimmed glasses. He said, how do you think you look now, Mr. Evans? And I looked at him. And I was like, okay, this is the judge here. And he said, you still think it look good now? And I looked at the deputy. And I knew that the deputy had told Michael Talbot what I had said when I was going into the bullpen when he asked me how do you think it looked. Because this is exactly the same word that the dep had asked me. And he said, you still think it look good? And so right there and there, that stuck with me all the way up to today. And I could take a lie detector test and tell you that he said that exact words to me. He said, you still think it look good? So, you know, I never really came out there until like a couple of years ago to answer your question. If anybody think I'm lying about that, hook me up to a lie detector test. That's the truth. So he gave me this sentence knowing that that he was sentencing me to a death sentence. He created a sentence for me. And I was 18.
You've been incarcerated going on 32 years now. What do you do to keep busy in prison?
Well, you know, I used to do a lot of working out, but I started reading, educating myself, enrolled in school, obtained my GED, taking college courses, studying religion and history, And this is the things that I do and help and mentor young youth that comes through here because there's a lot of gang banging going on and they don't have no sense of direction. I have learned that, if you want to change your past, you got to speak to the youth. If you want to change, you don't want to see your future, you got to talk to your elders. So I find myself now being more of a mentor to the youngsters that's getting out. Although I got 75 to 150 years, I can still help somebody else that's on their way out to society, give them some wisdom, a little more understanding, and show them discipline. I would even stop eating 3 times a day. I eat once a day. I self-reflect and meditate. And it's like that routine all over again. It just becomes my daily habits that I do. Like today, you witnessed it, heard it from yourself. I had a CEO that was being a little rude, but I had to follow the rules. So she wanted me to get off the phone right in the middle of the interview. I got off the phone. Didn't become argumentative. Stayed focused. If I would have been confrontational with her, I wouldn't be able to talk to you on the phone right now. I'd probably be in a hole, have a ticket written on me, but I had to refrain myself. Even though I didn't like it, I just had to have respect for authority and follow the rules. And because of that, I'm able to still be out here to talk to you on the phone and complete this interview. So these are things that I've learned over the years that I didn't have, nor did I care to exercise when I was young.
If and when you're released from prison, what are your plans?
Well, my plans is, I would like to, first of all, to be realistic. I'd like to acclimate myself to being free, because I've been so institutionalized all my life. I would like to reacclimate myself and just have therapy sessions and link up with people that are out there helping and doing positive stuff. I like to go talk to the governor and the lieutenant governor, prosecutors, attorneys, and students that studying criminal law, or what they call it, criminal justice. I would like to talk to these people because I would like to kind of stop people from coming up in here. And I think the focal point needs to be in those so-called juvenile facilities, training schools, because I think those are the breeding grounds for criminal behavior or developing criminal thoughts. And it needs to be checked at that moment because, when you become a ward of the state, whether your home that you was brought up in was worse, the state's allegedly supposed to be taking care of you and putting you in a better situation than you were at home. But what you find out is that you link up with other, disenchanted youth with no kind of hope for the future. And they band together and they become a criminal enterprise. But if you give them become an advocate of a youth or youth and train them and stick with them until they're able to mentally develop past the age of 21 up into 26, then you can see that they be making sound decisions. But most of the time you get committed to the state, and it's not all the state's fault. You have people that have way worse experiences than I have, and they never committed a crime. Most of them have a choice. They made a choice. So I found out that it's all about choices. Got to learn how to make the right choices and give people an opportunity to make better choices in their lives so they won't fill in these prisons up. So I would like to become a part of that, to be some type of mentor. And I'm talking about on a daily basis because this is the only way I think that I can pay back a debt. I can never bring back a life. Never. But I can definitely make sure others don't take somebody's life, nor do they lose their life coming into this situation. And I'm in. So I would like to go to school, possibly become a counselor, psychologist, or something, because I had to become my own psychologist. I never really sat back and talked to psychics and stuff, because I always looked at them, giving me an objective view. I need somebody with a subjective view. Their objective view. Of course, you can see things that other people can't see because you're going through it. But you need somebody that's been through it and tell you how to walk through it. And I think I can give that type of insight to people that's on their way in here or about to make the bad choices. men or women, young ladies, young boys, even adults. I'd like to become a mentor. I don't know exactly how that's going to come, but I do know that I have the energy to bring that forth to life, make it a reality. I just need some help, because I never even had a chance in my life to be anything other than where I'm at right now. And I might no longer use my life or what happened to me in the past as an excuse. I threw that out the window a long time ago. Because I'm responsible for me, and I'm responsible for the choices that I make. Because I can never turn back the hand of time. I can never bring Mr. Ivory back. What I can do, I can live for Mr. Ivory. I can be a voice for Mr. Ivory. Because the man lost his life because we met. But I think about his family. See, Mr. Ivory is not able to talk. I am. So I got to be his voice. I think his girlfriend was pregnant. So I don't know if she had a son or a daughter. They grew up without a father. And I remember his grandmother when she gave, when they asked the parents if they have anything to say, she was traumatized about her grandson losing his life. That stuff we still to this day. I can't never take that back. I can never pay that back. All I can do is just be a good person and help others. Even if it costs me my life, it'll be worth it. So I just wanted to seek employment, go to school, link up with other people that are making a change. I've been in aspects like school. I like to go into those dangerous environments where people don't want to go and just tell my story and just connect with people that need that type of help.
That was my interview with Leon Echols. Thank you for listening.
Unforbidden.